What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Carnage coming off the Memorial Day weekend. My friend, how was your weekend?
It was good. We had Noreen's father, 92-year-old father, come up and stay with us for the long weekend. He came up on a Friday and left on Tuesday, so we got to spend a few days with him. I think anytime you're dealing with a 92-year-old, there's some mixed emotions
Yeah.
that you deal with, and so when we finally took him to he takes a bus from Tucson to Phoenix, and we took him to the bus station and we gave him a big hug and it was so good to see you. And we got in the car and it's like, oh man, it's so nice to be back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, we took some time, went up to Williams for a day or so, but I realized Janice had never been to Prescott.
Okay. Okay.
So, and that was one of those accidental, like, because we were driving down I-40 and I just took that off ramp heading down the Chino Valley Highway, Prescott
Yeah.
Highway, and we stopped for lunch in Whiskey Row. She's like, I don't think I've ever actually been here. So we took the day and looked around Prescott and Prescott Valley and stopped at some places. And very surprised they had a Total Wine there now, but it's very nice.
Oh, they have, wow.
One of the
Okay.
nicer Total Wines I've been in, by the way. Still had that
Okay.
new boost smell.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Yeah. You can never go wrong with a good oaky smell that comes out of
Yeah,
of
but I tell
the,
you what, man, like we were just driving through Prescott Valley, and I kind of looked there. I was like, you know what, I could live here. I would be all right in Prescott Valley. She goes, yeah, me too. Like, and since she was riding shotgun, she had time to pull up the old Zillow,
yeah.
the old realtor.com, and look up some listings.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to squash like a fantasy of moving to a
Oh
nicer
God.
area,
Yeah.
look at the housing prices during a boom.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I can imagine. I can imagine.
1,200 square feet, built 1980 something for 450,000. It's
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
oh god, but it's nice. So we went up
Well,
there,
you know what?
Flagstaff.
You can still dream. You can still
Oh yeah,
dream. Just you're not going to be moving anytime soon.
yeah. It was nice though because we went and spent some time with my parents up in Williams, and it's funny because my dad's got some medical stuff going on, so he can't drink anymore, and we went to the Grand Canyon Brewery for dinner, and because they like the pizza there, and my mom was just funny. She's like, you know what, I'm done. I need to have some wine. It's like, I don't know what you're gonna drink, but you can figure it out. But I'm having wine. And by the way, we're going back to our weekly Chili's thing. Like, you got to decide, you want iced tea or Diet Coke, because I want my time out in public drinking wine. Like, okay. It was just one of those.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Like, all right. And my mom peer pressured me into drinking. I was perfectly fine just having a Diet Coke with dinner, visiting and whatever else. And she looked at the table and said, am I the only one drinking? And I was like,
And
well,
then looked right at you.
yeah, so that kind of pressure, I might as well have myself a mule. So they have a very nice orange blossom mule at the Grand Canyon Brewery in Williams.
Okay.
The prickly pear is very good too, but I highly recommend the orange blossom mule.
Their pizzas are very good there.
Oh, they're great. They're so good.
Yeah,
So they're calzones. It's good food.
Oh, okay. I haven't had the calzone yet. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, that's good to add that to the list too. All right.
So we spent some time with them. But I tell you, the highlight of my weekend, and I'm sure this was the highlight of many Americans' weekends on this past Memorial Day. We came home to go check out Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, I'm already with you, buddy. We did the same thing. We took a
Oh.
92-year-old to the movies to see Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah. And as it turned out, when we were in line, because, it was very cold and windy up in Williams and Flagstaff, so we really couldn't do anything. So we came back a little bit early and ended up seeing it here locally. Our buddy Chris's mom was in line right behind us, so she ended up hanging out with us at the movie.
Okay.
And she's just a very funny lady. She's a doctor. And she just looked at me and said, I've been waiting for this movie for so long. And I said, you know what, me too. And I can honestly tell you, I saw the first one 35, 36 years ago in this very movie theater right here.
Yeah, it was 37 years ago. It came out in 1985.
Was it 85? I was thinking it was 86.
Oh, maybe it is. I thought it was 85, but if it's 86, that's even, I mean, and to put it in perspective, Tom Cruise is now going to be 60 in July.
Yeah.
So basically we have come 35 to 37 years into the future for this waiting of this movie.
And I tell you what, man, we were talking about it in our pre-show meeting. Excuse me. This movie was really, I in my opinion, one of the better movies I've seen over the last couple years, but probably the movie that America needed most right now.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. I will agree with you that the movie was very well done on many levels, and we can talk about that. But let's dive into a little bit more of the social impact of this movie, and where do you think it lands when people are all going to watch this movie?
And, and we'll get to that for a second, but I think a lot of people don't realize is that Paramount has been sitting on this movie for 2 years. This movie was supposed to come out in May of 2020 or June of 2020. And when all the movie theaters were shut down, they delayed it till Christmas of 20. And then they pumped it out till, the summer of 21. And then finally they bumped it another year just to be done with it to make sure we were able to be back in theaters. And I tell you what, man, that was very well played because they did not want people to see this on streaming first.
No, and it would have they would have probably forced it to streaming. So I'm glad that someone made that executive decision.
Yeah, because I do feel like, well, and I feel like there's a big part of it that even if they would have done this on streaming, if they would have come back 2 years later and said, hey, we're going to put this on the big screen so you can experience it the way you should, I'd have gone. I'd have
Yeah.
gone in a heartbeat. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, oh well, and I think but our audience may not know that I do have a huge Tom Cruise fan crush on
Crush.
Tom Cruise. So
Yeah.
as long as Tom Cruise is in the credits somewhere, I will be going to see it. I don't care if it's that whatever that weird movie was that he did as like he was an elf or something. If they did a sequel to that movie,
You talking about like Labyrinth or
Labyrinth or whatever that movie was done a long time
he
ago.
was young back then. He had to make the money.
Okay, and I would go see that part two. That's how much I love Tom Cruise. So
That's fair.
I know I was gonna go see Top Gun Maverick, and we were in a dilemma because we had Noreen's father with us, and we were looking at things to do, and it was either that or Downton Abbey, and we
Oh,
didn't think that he was going to go to Downton Abbey and really enjoy that. But we also said, yeah, but we really want to see this on IMAX, and uh, you know, are we okay with not seeing on IMAX and just going to the regular movie? And we said, yeah, let's do that. So we go to the regular movie. I'm jazzed up. It was so good that even Noreen said, yeah, we're going to go again, but we're going to go see it in IMAX.
yeah. It's funny. I got a text from our buddy JP on Fridays. Like this thing is totally cool. The movie's worth it. And then as we were walking in to our movie, our EP, Tom texted me and said, "You got to check out this movie. This is great." And we walked out of those theaters, and I responded to both. I was like, "Yeah, this is amazing." And then JP, the perfect JP response to that was, "I can't wait to buy this so I can watch it again and again, and then set it up outside on a big screen by my pool with surround sound, and have a viewing party that way too."
So so now we kind of come full circle with why this movie was so important. Um, I First of all, it has been said that the first weekend his box that the box office was Tom Cruise's largest opening weekend box office in his career.
Yeah,
$125 million in the first weekend.
yeah, 150 is what it finished at.
Okay, finish that that must have been after Monday. So
Yeah,
on the Memorial Day weekend, $150 million, first blockbuster. You know, two. You take that and couple that with just, I got to admit, for a sequel, really well written story. I mean, I think that the story was believable enough. It wasn't over the top with macho, I'm a fighter pilot, hear me roar kind of stuff. I thought they balanced that really well. So you're right. I mean, everyone who went to go see it, at least the people who I talked to, I haven't heard one person say, "Oh my god, that was the stupidest movie I've ever seen in my entire life."
well, I have to, and I think where you really hit home with this is that it was very well received. And I think the biggest part of it is that this is a generational movie. This is a franchise now that defined so many childhoods from all of us. I remember one of my earliest memories of going to the movie theaters was seeing the first Top Gun. I remember it always being on TV. The soundtrack, I had it on tape. We had it on CD. I have it on digital. It's a timeless soundtrack.
Yeah.
Fun fact about this on a side note. I did not realize this weekend until my parents told me that I had an aunt that lived in Boulder, right down the way from where my brother lives now.
Uh-huh.
The house she bought in the mid '80s, she bought from Kenny Loggins.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who had so in my mind now, this house we used to vacation at, that was the house where he inspired so many hit songs for movies, from the Top Gun soundtrack to Caddyshack. I have convinced myself that he wrote at least parts of those songs in that house. But this, I think this is just generational. I think this touched on the generation ahead behind you that was probably a full adult when they saw that, and the kids that watched it growing up, and it hit on everything about growing up and having to deal with letting go, and letting that next generation step up and do what has to be done. You might not think they're ready, but you have to trust the instinct.
Yeah, and I have to say I was very impressed with the fact that however they wrote the script, and I'm not sure if that was a choice by Tom Cruise himself or the writers or who made that decision. But while Tom Cruise or Maverick's character was the main focal point of the character, um, you could tell that he was vulnerable, that he had aged, that he was no longer the young, cocky pilot that was in the first Top Gun. It was more of a reserved, controlled, what you would expect out of someone in their 50s, right? Like
Yeah,
someone who had been in the test pilot world for 30 plus years and was kind of dialing down to the end of his career.
but he still wanted to push that envelope. He still wanted to be that guy, and they
I,
came to
I
him because
guess
only he could be that guy.
only he could be that guy. Yeah, exactly. And I thought they did a good job, pushing that. When you talk about generations, I'm an older generation than I was when I watched the first Top Gun. There's going to be generations of younger kids who are going to watch this and they're going to do the same things that you and I did 30 years ago. Oh my gosh, I want to be a fighter pilot right now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? And then there's the people that are older like me that are going to look at the scenes with the original characters and say, yeah, they did a nice homage to Iceman. They did a nice homage to uh,
Goose.
Goose. And the way that they did that, it was a nice transition to the new generation. Yeah.
And it makes me wonder. So as I said, this has been sitting on the shelf for 2 years. Like, do you think they tweaked it at all over the last 2 years? Do you think they, did minor changes, or said, it worked here, but it'd be better if we did it this way and made more changes? Or if they just 2 years ago, when it was ready for release, they just said, you know what, this is good. We'll just wait till it's time and then we'll release it.
Um, I I personally think that they probably didn't tweak it that much. That and the reason why I say that is because of the emphasis that the production staff and the director put into look, these actors, you're gonna be in an F-18 or you're gonna be in a fighter jet. We're not gonna
Yeah.
do this CGI. We're not gonna do this, fake um, aerial scenes. You're gonna be, given a plane and you're gonna fly in it, and we're going to get the real reactions of your flights in it. I think that because of that, you probably only got one take, right? You only got
Yeah.
one chance to make that take. So a lot of the scenes, I don't think you could reshoot easily.
Yeah. That's a good point. I don't know. I like you said, I appreciate a lot of the homages to it. I appreciated the exchange that Maverick had with Ice.
Yeah,
Val Kilmer coming back. I don't know if people realize this, but he's lost his ability to speak. He speaks through a voice box now. So they had to go back and digitally uh, reimagine his voice, or piece together his voice from past roles to make that work.
I think the other thing that was interesting that I read on the back notes is I guess Tom Cruise really had to fight to have Ice or to have Val Kilmer on in his role. That he
Yep.
had to kind of like really push for that, and I give a lot of credit for that because I think having Val Kilmer in the film just legitimized it even more for me.
Well, I think
That
I think I
yeah,
think it adds a heart to it, like a bigger heart that I think a lot of people don't realize was there, and the relation it showed there was more than just a competitive relationship between the two in that first movie. That it had evolved and they had bonded over the course of 35 years.
So go into why you think this movie is so needed right now.
I think you look at the way the world is, that nobody wants to see eye to eye on anything. Nothing is black and white. Everything's either my way or the highway, or if you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. I think this is one of those movies that you can be on different political aisles. You could be different phases in life, but sit down and spend a couple hours with this movie. Like, you know what? Yeah, like this hits at home that you can find a way to work together. You can find a way to connect with people that aren't on the same level as you or in the same phase of life as you. Um, it's something that the world just we've been lacking. And in a very subtle way, I feel like this movie just kind of showed people like, you can get past your differences. And just because we're not the same doesn't mean we can't get on the same page and get the job figured out.
Do you do you think that it's given people from different um, political backgrounds also a thing to a commonality to talk about and say, "Wow, did you like this? Oh my God, did you like this?"
I would hope
And
so.
find, yeah,
I would hope so. I would hope anybody that just wants to be that could be a civil human being for a little while and you can say, hey man, did you see this? This is a great movie. What'd you think? And I would hope it'd be an olive branch of sorts, just to open up some kind of dialogue, you know, just for people that you might not be on the same page with. I just feel like
um,
that it's just that the world's in a very weird place, and a rallying point about a feel good movie is what we need right now that everyone's going to go see.
okay. I um, do you think that the movie would have been good if the fight scenes were all in CGI?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's probably fine. I mean, seeing the movie without giving away any spoilers, but at this point, for our four listeners, if you haven't seen it yet, then I'm just disappointed because you're lacking, and I don't want to hear waiting for the crowds to die down. Go see it. Uh, I feel like it's, but the way CGI is now, it wouldn't have hurt it that much, but it makes it more authentic. And I think that authenticity is what adds to the to what makes this more generational.
I, for me, I know that I am in full agreement with you. For me, while the movie, because let's be honest, the first Top Gun movie, most of that, while the aerial footage outside of the cockpit was for the most part, you know, fighter pilots doing their thing, the actors themselves were not part of the, a lot of
Yeah,
that footage was not part of anything that they did lot, for real. I thought for me that the authenticity of, only knowing from the background that all of the actors went through 3 months of fighter pilot training, right? All
yeah,
all of them went through that. All of them went through the G forces, and all of them went through, actually seeing the plane and flying as if they were actually in the plane. It added something to me that uh, just made the movie that much more enjoyable because you realize, especially in today's world, everything is CGI, everything is stuntman. No one does their own stunts. To have this movie come out where, what you're seeing on the film on the screen is real. That is real as you can get without being a licensed fighter pilot. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you can't. Everything else is on there. Like the scenes where Tom Cruise is doing the aerial footage. That's really Tom Cruise. He's a licensed fighter pilot.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And so adding that authenticity did make the movie us appreciate it more because you can tell how much effort and how much hard work was put into making this for us, right?
yeah,
Tom Cruise and the cast did not do all this stuff for themselves. Like, oh, they did it for us as the audience. Like, I'm going to give you the best experience I possibly can give you. There's something very rewarding about that. Maybe it's like, you know what? It's Do they make money? Yes. Do they have fame? Yes. But to me, it was also selfless to say, I'm going to put my body through the ringer to make sure that the experience for you is as real as it possibly can be.
Now, I will say there toward the end, I did think it was getting very close to jumping the shark, but they did a great job of landing the plane, so to speak, in that final act. Uh, there's only so much you can do, and really, this, at the heart of this, it's the relationship between Maverick and Rooster, who is Goose's son.
Right.
So, at some point they have to figure out how they're going to get past the differences, and they kind of go into the details of why things are the way they are between them, and it's good, but like I said, it's not a perfect movie by any means. There were some parts, like I thought I got a little Lethal Weapony there at the end, but I think the movie kind of benefited from that too in some respects, to where it gave them a different version of combat.
Well, and obviously, yeah, I didn't know how they were going to transition from the main plot to this secondary plot. That other than, you know, they had to do something to kind of break up the two scenes or two acts, I guess. But you're right, yeah, it got a little corny at sometimes, but all in all, yeah, it definitely did what it was supposed to do. You know, and for those that know how Tom Cruise works, I mean, he is. I don't know if he's just an adrenaline junkie, but it takes a lot for him to have a stunt man do a stunt for him.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
know,
there was one of the Mission Impossibles in the first scene where he is basically strapped and hanging on to an airplane as it's taking off, and there's no fake. It's him strapped into an airplane. Now, obviously, they probably have a safety harness on him, but you see the plane take off because the camera is looking at him and seeing the plane take off, and it's a real takeoff. There's
well,
no like documenting the scene or anything like
that's
that.
what I was explaining to Janice's oldest when we were driving through Zion, because I don't know if anybody remembers Mission Impossible 2 back in
Yes,
1999, 2000, whenever that came out.
yes,
But the opening scene of that movie, he's up in Utah in the Red Rocks,
yeah,
hanging hundreds of feet up in the air on a
yeah,
boulder, just bouldering. And
yeah.
I showed her one of those cliffs, and I said, this is where Tom Cruise, he filmed an opening scene like this with no harness or anything. So you have to give
Yeah.
respect to the people that can do this.
And it sounds like that because he was a producer, he wasn't like an executive producer. He was the producer of this film. And you can tell that he just said, look, we're going to do it as natural as we possibly can, as authentic as we possibly can. And the results were what we saw.
Well,
Every single person that I've talked to, oh my gosh, that was an amazing movie. I couldn't believe how good that was. You know what I mean?
I
So
feel,
that
yeah,
tells you everything you need to know.
I feel like we're starting to head into the victory lap era of Tom Cruise's career. He put a bow on Maverick and gave him a happy ending. And they showed a trailer for the new Mission Impossible coming out next summer, and they're shooting the one after that one back to back. So there's part 2 and 3 of whatever this new Mission Impossible is, but it's Ethan Hunt's last go
Right.
around in Mission Impossible. So I
Right.
think all of his franchises are starting to button up. And at 60 years old, you kind of have to, because you need to start.
Uh, I mean, the reality is, he's still capable of doing these films, but I think he probably is at a point where maybe it's time for me to produce them, maybe even direct them, but
You
not
know,
necessarily do the acting in them.
the way people take care of their bodies, 60 years old is a much different version of humanity than it was 20 years ago,
And don't
let
get me
alone
wrong,
40
I
years
mean
ago.
he looks pretty darn good for 60. I
But
mean, the
that's
guy
that's
looks
that's what
pretty
I'm
good.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, he looks very good for someone that age. So you're right. He could possibly carry this on for a little while, but you can't outrun time.
Well,
You
and
know.
frankly, if he's a producer, I can't even imagine the amount of money he's getting paid to do this.
Oh yeah, he's made his money back and then some.
Do you remember when Mel Gibson produced and directed The Passion of the Christ,
Yeah.
and all the movie production companies basically said we're not doing this film, and so he basically put up the entire amount of the budget himself, and then it became a worldwide sensation and made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. I could very much see that this movie, this Top Gun, will do the same thing. It
So
will make him millions and millions of
as
dollars.
we inch closer to the end of the show today, I have to ask: as an Oscar snob that you are, as someone that would watch the fancy movies, um, do you think this movie at any point in time has any shot at Oscars besides special effects, like the main ones, like actor, film, director?
No, the only one I could possibly see would be cinematographer, possibly.
Really?
Yeah, I because the acting wasn't that powerful. The original screenplay, it was good, but I don't think it was Oscar worthy. Obviously, having Tom Cruise in the film as Maverick made a huge difference, but everyone else is basically, a next generation of that genre. I could only see it being maybe a director, possibly, or I don't think it's going to be best film. I just don't think so. But I could see something in like cinematography, possibly director, um,
So,
only because
what you're saying is this will dominate the MTV Movie Awards next year because it's also owned by Paramount more than will the actual Academy Awards.
I don't think it'll be worthy. I don't think it was worthy of any Academy Awards per se. It was a great movie. It was kind of like the Top Gun from before. Fantastic movie. Nothing in there warranted anything in
See,
Oscars.
and I think this is where we talk. It's a different topic for a different day, but it's a disconnect between what Hollywood wants us to like versus what people like.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that the one thing I will say is I do believe that this met both criteria. That anytime that a film can do something that you just don't see very often, right? Like this film, the aerial footage in this film, I'm trying to think of another movie that had as much as real, and I just can't come up with the name. Can you think of another movie that had as much real aerial footage in it? Legitimate.
Avatar. I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah, Avatar maybe. Avatar 2 is coming out, so
yeah, yeah.
never know. Um,
Dances with Wolves too. Let's call it what it is.
a couple years ago, there was that movie 1917. Do you remember the movie?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
It was an okay movie, but what made it really phenomenal is everything was done in one camera frame. So the frame that you're looking at, there's no multiple cameras. Everything was filmed in one frame. So the difficulty of having to do a whole movie with one camera and be able to transition between each scene, and witnessing, two people talking and something else going on in the background. That's why it won. I think it won the Academy Award for that, as a director,
Well,
because how difficult that is. Um, I equate this somewhat to that because what they produce for us as a nation, as a world, it would be hard to do. That would be very difficult to do in today's world.
yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's
How about you? Do you think it's Academy Award worthy?
honestly, I do.
Okay.
And I think of on different reasons where I think this is where maybe the Academy has to start thinking on different levels. Yeah, it's getting great reviews critically, so
It
that
makes sense.
checks the
Yeah.
box for them. It's killing it
Mhm.
at the box office.
Makes sense.
It's a much better story than most sequels are going to be.
Oh yeah, I would totally agree with that.
I'll be honest. Miles Teller did a great job. He always does great jobs in his roles anyway, but he exceeded my expectations in his character.
Frankly, I don't think they could have picked a better actor to kind of look like Anthony Edwards at that time.
Oh yeah,
So, I mean, they did a good job casting that. Yeah.
yeah. No, so I'm just thinking out loud. Like, yeah, but to me, it goes back to like the Dark Knight when that was nominated for everything because it was very popular and it had some plot holes. But at the end of the day, everyone was like, "Well, shit, that was actually a really good movie and made a lot of money. The acting was better than it probably should have been." And I'm just saying, it's
It's
you can never
possible.
say never.
My mom used to say that an Academy Award winning role is any role that you could not picture another actor doing. you
Yeah.
couldn't picture someone else doing. And I would argue and agree with you that other than Tom Cruise, because of the way that the story is written, there's no other actor you could have put in there in
Yeah.
their mid 50s to take over that role, but Tom Cruise. So yeah, maybe you got something there, Scott. Maybe this will be the Academy Award he deserves. So
It would be a nice ending to the sunset of his career. I will give him that. But
yeah, I think that you're right. You probably said it best. I think it's transitioning. The action hero star is probably starting to wane, and maybe he'll get into more pieces that are more personal to him, or get into acting of more dramatic features. So I can see that. I agree with you.
as one of the themes of the movie says, sometimes you just got to let it go, and maybe that's what he's doing. This is his way of letting it go from that genre.
And letting go with a bang. I will say,
Exactly.
if this is one of his last action films, this next couple films, not bad, buddy. I
Yeah.
applaud you. I applaud you.
So if you had a chance to get out this holiday weekend and go see Top Gun, what did you think? We want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you got a chance to go do something else besides that, we'd like to hear about it too. But go ahead and tell our EP Tom at liquid_EP on Twitter and Instagram.
Well, I'm glad you watched the movie. I'll let you know how it is on IMAX. You can go watch it over at JP's house on the big screen with surround sound, and we'll compare.
Yeah, I think it's a no. I think it's a no-brainer.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I'm Jason, and as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some liquid carnage.